We've got some big news. This is going to be the final Whirlwind build for farming all levels, and it is the best. I know, don't jump to conclusions here. You might be thinking, Murder, you gave us the no bleed mace, the updated bleed version for the axe, it's a pumper. What are you doing? Do you think it's free to respec? No, I don't. I get it, this is preseason. You have to remember, all about testing things. This build is insane. It's going to demolish all of the others, but you don't have to swap. You already know that if you're playing any of the builds that I've made and I put on my YouTube channel, if you're following them from the planners, they're going to be fine. But this one is just, I mean, it's there. It's at the next level. So we get a lot to talk about. Let's dive straight into it. What up, team? It is MurderInc. We are talking about Barbarian Diablo 4 spin to win. You already know that's what we do for now. I mean, it's about to end here, but so what's the difference? Let's just talk about what the difference is really quickly. We are using two one-handed weapons. Why are one-handed weapons so strong? And this is where I have to credit two really smart people that I've been working with, bouncing off ideas with. We have Beat Dropper, who's done tons for the community already, and then Asta. His name's not Asta, I just call him Asta because his name's long. Their names will be on the screen, of course, so shout out to you guys for sure for letting me bounce ideas off of you. I've spent, like, I don't know, people have been asking me to get this video out. It's taken a while. There were so many things to test with this. I wanted to make sure I'm giving you guys the best, like the absolute best, and I'm confident this is going to be it. So like we're saying, we're using one-handed weapons. So what is a one-handed weapon like? Why, right? Look at a two-handed. We have the mace. This is the mace I used. 814, 2,676 damage per second here. 0.9 attacks per second here. So that's the key point, the attacks per second. Polearm's the worst overall. Swords are going to be the fourth best. Then maces and axes, I don't know, they're very close. It's hard to say which is better. Axes will pull slightly ahead at the end of your end game whirlwinding, and then the one-handers at the top. So why are the one-handers so good? Compared to the other weapons, they are hitting for about 1 1/4 more times, right? 1.25, it's around there. So more hits. You might be thinking, but they're not going to hit as hard, so who cares? This is where it gets kind of interesting. So I'm going to be using the Magnum Opus. I just like calling it Ramala, just because, I don't know, you can call it a Magnum Opus if you want it, but I'm going to be using this because the scaling with this weapon specifically is crazy. Not just that, the second huge benefit is you can build Hota gear with this one-handed build, and then when you swap to Hammer the Ancients, you just have to change your aspects and you're fine. That's what I spent a lot of time trying to do here, and you can already see the benefit of that, right? So if you're farming, I mean, you should not be farming as Hota unless you think it's fun. If you're going to be like a gamer for the seasons, you want to be Whirlwind, like no doubt about it. All the way through, you're gonna fly through the content, and then once you're ready, you have the gear farmed. That's why you would use the one-handed build, because then you can start getting gear and start using the Hammer the Ancients gear with this Whirlwind, which is obviously the best Whirlwind build now. And then you can just swap your aspects around, and there you are, Hammer the Ancients. Of course, you're gonna need gloves, but that's the only exception. I can't put Hammer the Ancients +3 on our gloves for this build. If I could, listen, I would for sure. So this video is going to be kind of long, but it is what it is. You're going to have to deal with it. So as you can already see from this new Whirlwind build, we're not hitting lightly, right? We're hitting from 1 million, 1.4, 1.3 million. We're attacking faster with those numbers, and we're doing more damage overall. So what are the big changes? I'm going to have a planner, but listen. If you go straight to the planner, it's going to be bad news for you. Why? Because I'm not making 4 different planners. I'm going to explain it in this video so it's locked forever, and that's it. If you want to make your own planner, you can do that based on this video. So if you don't have the Magnum Opus, the Ramala, as I like to call it, you don't have to use it. If you do have it, I mean, I've gone up to tier 88 with Whirlwind. I didn't complete it. It was unlucky. At the end of the dungeon, there was a 3-pack of elites. Poison, 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 double fire aura, and double suppressor. Who in Whirlwind is getting through that? Hammer the Ancients, you just go over there and one-shot them. And you use that healthy barrier thing to take no damage while you're one-shotting them, because you would just get one shot, regardless of your build. So, I got you baited. I was like really happy getting all the way to the end, and then I saw these 3 spiders, and I'm like, GG. It's just GG. So, yeah, I mean, I have a 768 Magnum Opus, which is like, people have way better. If you have an 800 version of this, you're going to be doing way more damage than I'm doing, which is, I mean, I'm kind of trying to farm for one, not really, but so okay, my main point, what happens if you don't have one of these? So if you don't have one of these, we're going to go over to my stash. I'm going to show you, you are not going to be using a second, okay, there's no entrance there, debated. You're not going to be using a second sword. Instead, you're going to be using a mace. I know, you might be thinking, Murder, what do you mean you're going to be using a mace? You're going to be losing 26.2% crit damage. Get over it. Just get over it. You're gonna be using a mace. The higher item level, the better here. Something like this. I just bought an 821. People are selling these on the Discord for so cheap because they have no idea how good this build is. So hopefully, before this video blows up, just go and buy one-handers. I'm telling you right now, go and buy one-handers because this is going to be the meta. And you're going to want to be able to play around with this before the season comes out, so you're curious and you understand the good stuff. Anyways, I'm getting a little bit off topic here. So what makes this build so good? You hear me talking about it, showed you some clips. Why is this so strong? Let me show you something really quickly. I'm going to hover over the weapons and let me know what you notice here. Expectant, okay. Edge Masters, Magnum Opus, Limitless Rage. What am I missing? What do you notice that I'm missing? You can see on this weapon, Dire Whirlwind. Now, why would I not be running Dire Whirlwind on the weapon? Because with this build, it's extremely easy to overcap on crit rate. So where is it instead? It's on the neck piece. I do still have Disobedience on the pants, but we have Dire Whirlwind on the neck piece, giving us that free slot, not losing too much damage. I mean, ideally, you wouldn't put Expectant on the two-hander. I just do not have a better Edge Master, so you would put Edge Masters on the two-master here. You'll see that in the planner, but it's important to kind of go over that. So that's the thing here. As far as expertise, we're taking two-handed axe expertise for increased damage to vulnerable. And what do we get? So we have 2 swords. Lucky hit, low chance, but hear me out here. Up to a 10% chance, double this with 2 swords, which we're going to be using 2 swords if you have the Magnum Opus, to gain 5 fury when hitting a crowd controlled enemy. And forgot to mention, this is a bleed build, so everything will be crowd controlled all of the time. So every time a lucky hit chance procs, you're gonna have a 20% chance of gaining free rage. So one thing this build does that no other Whirlwind build does is it generates like double the amount of rage. You'll notice it right away when you're spinning. I noticed it instantly. And the fact that I noticed it instantly while using a weapon that literally states you lose 2 fury every second, you don't even notice it at all. You really don't. You use all of your shouts and you just don't notice the drain at all, which is another reason why it's just so busted. So what do I mean by it shares gear with Hammer the Ancients? So this scales off of however much fury you have. So you want max fury on the helmet here, and then you want to take skills that give you max fury. Now, in case you're curious, I've seen people talking about how max fury is best in slot on the rings for Hammer the Ancients. If you do the math, that's wrong. I'm not sure where that came from or who's like pushing that, but don't do that. Crit damage is always better. Vulnerable damage, all of your damage comes in the vulnerable damage window. So you wouldn't drop either of those. I guess if you want to drop resource generation, you can do that. That could be viable. For this build, maybe you do that. I'm not sure about that. But if you want to do that, we can kind of go over some options you have. So that's the expertise and why it's so strong. If you decide to use not the Magnum Opus because you don't have it, and you want to use the one-handed mace, you get increased damage to stunned enemies. A 10x multiplicative multiplier, which is big. On top of that, you also get to take the talent Wallop. because Wallop does not say 2 hands anywhere. So this is another huge benefit. Now the difference between running Magnum Opus is slight. You're not going to run Lunging Strike. You're not going to take Expectant. You're going to take the Earthquake and Ground Stomp and use that for the stun synergy on top of, we'll get into that later. I also have this. Don't even look at my weapon, and I was supposed to go and replace it with not this, Ripping. Ripping was one. Was this the other one? Yeah, so Ripping is what I was going to replace this with on my gloves. I just have this because I was testing out some like Thorn. Like I said, I tested everything for this to make sure it was perfect for you guys. Thorn sucks. Don't do it. It was a bait. I thought it would be cool, but it's not cool at all. Thorn doesn't suck. I mean, for this build specifically. So Berserker Ripping, this is what you want to take here. It's just extra damage. It really is. So now let's get into the abilities. Okay. So this is going to be what I'm going to recommend for anybody that has their gear. If you have gear, you're running this and you're speed farming 60s, no problem. 70s, no problem. Have to watch the modifiers and the maps in the 70s, but no problem. You will not have an issue running the build I'm going to show you here today in 70s. Period. I didn't struggle from 70 all the way to 79. I probably ran 40 of them. Just as long as it didn't have resource burn, as long as it didn't have reduced crit damage, physical or close damage, and it didn't have backstabbers, I ran the map no matter what, and that was fine. And this is the setup I used here. So you can see it. I'll kind of scroll through it quickly here. This is what will be on the planner. Now, with this being said, there's a few things to talk about here. The first thing to talk about is I am taking cut to the bone because you are pumping bleed damage. You really are. If you think about it this way, we are not taking pressure point. So only the damage you do in the 3 seconds of hitting exploit is going to matter. With that being said, you want to make sure you're hitting as hard as possible. You're going to have 100% crit rate. We have no mercy here as well. And you want to be doing your bleeding effects deal 18% multiplicative damage to vulnerable targets. So you're going to be, I mean, I was taking for like 120,000 damage with one-handed weapons. Like, that's what we're talking about. So you're critting for over 1 million, the high end of 1.5, 1.6, and your bleeds are ticking for 1.6, and then outside of the window, you just get all of that excess bleed damage. And like I said, your crit rate's high. So you got all that going for it. We have the typical damage reduction. We don't have Prolific Fury because we don't need it. We're taking Tempered Fury because this is straight damage for Magnum Opus, the ancestral piece. If you're not running that, obviously you take these 3 points out, you put them into Wallop, and it's that simple. So now that we went over that, if you're earlier on into the game and you're struggling with things like Fury Generation still, which honestly I've actually taken points and gotten this all the way down to 3 out of 5, which is baseline. I just had nowhere else to put the points, to be honest with you. And you can still sustain it, even with 3 out of 5 Rallying Cry. Which is kind of crazy, but anyways, it is what it is. So if you're struggling early game, this is what you want to do. You want to take points out of No Mercy. Take 3 points out of No Mercy. You can lose the 9% crit rate. I will show you why. Put 1 point into Aggressive Resistance and 2 points into Prolific Fury. So that change alone is going to be huge. This is going to let you not have Fury cost reduction on 1 piece. Just 1 piece though. If you start getting to 2 pieces, you might find you're struggling with Fury, but it's really not going to be that bad. The next thing to talk about is going to be the Paragon. Listen carefully. Listen carefully. Like I said, I'm not going to be making 5 different Paragon trees for people. The one on the build guide is going to be what I have here for you. If you are leveling up with this build, you need to pay attention. The first glyph you're going to use is going to be Exploit. Exploit, it is right here. The second glyph you're going to use is going to be Disembowel. So Disembowel is going to go right here. And you're just going to fill to meet the requirements of the, 25 willpower. I don't care what my board and planner says, you're going to fill it so it says that for now. The next one you're going to do is going to be Wrath. You will see why. You will understand why. So Wrath is never going to change. The next one you're going to do is going to be Marshal. This is correct. By the time you get here and you get to slot in Mortal Draw, your power spike is going to be unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's going to take some getting used to, okay? I'm going to tell you right now. Lunging strike once or twice and then spinning with that additional 18% crit rate that's going to snapshot onto your whirlwind, it's really, really good. And you can see we get 71% additive damage, which is also nice, but additive damage isn't that big. So this is good, pumps a ton of damage here. Once you hit this point, you can go back down and you can swap Disembowel to the first slot, and then Ambidextrous to the second slot, and then finally Exploit is going to be last. So I lied. Once you get to the end here, that's when you can swap Exploit from the beginning to the end. Why does it have to be this complicated? Because no perfectly min-maxed Paragon tree will ever apply to level 100s, level 90s, level 80s, 70s, 60s, or 50s. Just kidding, 50s when you unlock it, the same. It won't. I've tried very hard to make one universal tree, but it hurts one side or the other way too much. So I'm doing it this way instead. The board is perfect. All you have to do is swap the glyphs around. There's no way around this. If you want to start going off into your little corners like, ooh, this one looks sick here, potion healing, listen, you do you. I just made this Paragon board, okay? If you think potion healing is going to be the key for your build, power to you. I'm not going to tell you otherwise. Okay. Now we need to talk about something that's really important here. Warbringer. Point number 5038 why one-handed is so busted compared to everything else. You don't need Warbringer. So we're saving a ton of points here, and we get to put it into more maximum fury. So why don't we need Warbringer? We don't need Warbringer because we're using Numbing Wrath. Each point of fury generated while at maximum fury grants 36 fortify. You might be thinking to yourself, Murder, you are insane. You're insane. Every single guide I've seen, whether it's my real favorite YouTuber, Noted, or it's a guide on max roll, icy veins, mobilytics, trollbolytics, I don't care what it is. So we're in a 71 here. They all take Warbringer. Let me show you. Take a look at this. If you look at my health here, when it becomes a solid color, that means it's fortified. So we're going to go into this 71 with my current build here. And I want you to look at my health bar and let me know how long it takes for me to get fully fortified. Just let me know. Huh. How long did that take? How long did that take? But that's weird though, because we don't have this. So how does that make sense? Do I have some skill? Let me see. I don't have this. Mighty Worker, I don't have that. Don't have Strategic Rallying Cry. So it looks like I have to go back now and I have to test this on two-handed weapons, because I mean, look at this already. Just look at my fortify. It's instantly maxed. So I'm not sure who did the initial testing on this. I'm not going to point fingers because I don't know. I'm just saying, whoever went up to Warbringer first and said it was crazy important, one-handed is just broken, or you trolled every single Paragon board build guide into baiting people to think that Warbringer was that important. Because it's not. But yeah, so as we can, I'm just gonna cheat. We're gonna cheat here. All right, so as you can see, this is a really OP build. We're doing a 71. We're completely flying through the whole dungeon here. We're just one-shotting everything. Has nothing to do with the shrine that I took. It has everything to do with the power of the build. As you can see, I'm not even looking at these mobs here. They're just getting completely destroyed. And trolling's good. Don't die, don't die. Okay, so I died. That's what I get for trolling. Anyways, that was a meme, obviously. So, back to the guide, back to what I was explaining here. As far as aspects, it's pretty much what we're missing here. Numbing Wrath in the helmet, as we saw how powerful it is. Iron Blood, huge. This is something you can imprint from doing a dungeon. You get the 10% version, but it's still going to be fine. You gain damage reduction based on nearby bleeding enemies. This, we already said, you're going to go with Berserk Ripping instead. I don't know why I hovered these. The next thing, you want Disobedience in the pants. For the boots, if you want, you can run the Penitent boots, the one that leaves the Frost Trail. If you want to. You are going to be losing Fury cost reduction. I didn't personally notice any rage struggles when I did use those boots. And you get 10% multiplicative damage, and you end up freezing the mobs. So if you want to use those, you can. Or, I think more optimally, since you can get more movement speed total, like movement speed to elite, even though I don't have it on here, and Fury cost reduction, it would be good to get a normal rare pair and then put on the Ghostwalker aspect. While unstoppable, you gain additional move speed. It looks like I have the worst roll, so I'm not sure why I have that. Then, as mentioned, you want Expectant on a one-hander, you want Edge Masters on a two-hander. Uptime difference is going to be big, and this is the key thing about the gameplay that's important to talk about. You don't have to go for the double lunging strike every time, which is why some can even argue that Expectant on the two-hander is fine, because you aren't always going to be at max resources either. You're capped pretty often, but once you start whittling down the mob density, you're not going to be capped all of the time. So there is an argument, like I said, to use this once, get the 20% effect instead of the baseline 10% effect if it's on a one-hander, and just start blasting. Because you have to keep in mind, and this is like a really important thing. I actually should go back to the dungeon and show you this, because this is a slight gameplay change from every other Whirlwind build. So the first mob you hit, you're going to proc your exploit. So what do you not want to do? Hit something important. So you want to hit something random like that, get the one stack, and just start spinning and blasting. That's all you want to do. So if there's a rare, or not a rare, if there's an elite in a pack, don't run up to the elite and hit lunging strike. I'm telling you right now, if you're playing this version with the Magnum Opus, do not lunging strike that elite, because you're going to lose one of the 3 seconds. That's a third of the uptime of your exploit on that elite, and it's probably not going to die. I learned through trial and error, just don't do that. But the good news is, as we can see here, all right, here's the Butcher. All right, so the only thing, and this is a problem I have not with this build, but with Whirlwind. So if you notice there, I was stun locked from my abilities. I don't know what causes this. Oh my god, I almost died there. I'm talking, I gotta focus. I don't know what causes this, but you will notice this if you play Whirlwind, where some interaction of you hitting skills together is going to cause you to get stun locked. And I should probably start using my shouts, huh? Yeah, right there. I don't know what that is. It's after I use lunging strike. My character just sits. I've wasted so many vulnerability windows, and it's just the most frustrating thing in the world here. All right, let's do this. Another thing, if you haven't noticed this already, for some reason shields in this game, stop running away. For some reason, shields in this game don't apply any of your damage modifiers. So like, I'm technically critting and it's appearing as white. I guess I have no potions left. There we go. You do reduce damage to shields. Like if you have the no. So if you have the modifier on your map that gives all of your mobs inside of that map like a small shield, for some reason you're going to do like 50,000 damage to them. And then as soon as the shield drops off, you're going to start doing millions to them. Kind of sucks that I died, because I probably needed, my grandfather was that butcher drop right there. But that's what I get for half paying attention here, because I am reading from something right now. Anyways, so as far as the build, we were going over that. We went over weapons, the rings, Echoing Fury, Bold Chieftain's Loop. The thing with this build is you do need Bold Chieftain's Loop, but with Disembowel, and since you're bleeding and killing things so quickly, if you have enough mob density, your cooldowns will be up very, very quickly. You are not running the Rage of Harrogath chess piece. You are not running Temerity. Any builds with those currently in them are borderline trolling. I'm just going to say it right now. If your thought is I'm pushing higher So I'm spending more time on elites, or like, for example, that butcher. I just got killed by butcher. If I was actually paying attention, what would I have done? I would have taken butcher with me to the next pack, lowered my cooldowns, and just started pumping that way. That way everything came off. That way I was using, where is it? Warcry more often for a damage buff, and butcher just would have died. If you don't know about that already, I mean, you should by now, but the way to kill butcher with Whirlwind, never 1v1 him. Always bring him to the next pack, and he's just gonna melt. You're gonna burst through his shield much quicker, because your Warcry will have a much lower cooldown, because it'll be proccing Disembowel, just shredding the other mobs. You'll be able to take advantage of your exploit windows, and yeah, that's basically the TLDR. Unfortunately, I was in La La Land trying to think about what's next on this video here, and I just got owned by butcher. It is what it is. So look for the planner. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out in the comment section. Let me know. Let people know about the build. I mean, this build pumps. If you swap to this, you will notice right away how much more consistent your damage is, how you're even faster flying through maps. And I mean, one thing, if you really want to, I will show you one last talent swap you can make here. If you want to take swiftness 3 points into it, you can. You can just get rid of the guttural yell. Not everyone really needs the damage reduction 12%. The damage reduction from this is good, but when you're farming, you should never be in danger of dying. If you are in danger of dying, then you're probably farming too high. If you feel like you don't need the bleed damage, which I guess is possible, you can get rid of cut to the bone for the bleeds during that vulnerability window, even though it starts ticking rather quickly. But it's a judgment call you can make. You can get rid of cut to the bone and put them into swiftness, or of course aggressive resistance and prolific fury. So this is going to be the build. That's what you can do if you're early game. As far as the other option with the mace, the only real change outside of what I've already mentioned is you're going to be taking ground stomp baseline. You don't really have too much freedom with talents, because you're taking 3 out of tempered fury, putting those 3 into wallop. If you want to, I guess you can take out cut to the bone and cut to the bone and hamstring. So that's 4 total here, because you're going to be stunning for the 9% crit rate. So you have 4 extra. You can put 3 into concussion. And if you cannot stand, if you're doing content and you're like early on in the game and you're not one-shotting mobs, you're probably going to have to take pressure point. Now, pressure point's bad. Let's just go over that. Pressure point it's pretty bad, because our luck hit chance for Whirlwind is 20%. So 20% proc here, then we have up to a 30% proc after that, which is not good. What is good is using one-handers, you have a chance per weapon hit, which is very good. So while Whirlwind is one skill, you are hitting Whirlwind faster with these one-hands. So we're getting more chances to proc lucky hits more often, which you will notice if you've been running pressure point on a two-hander compared to this one-handed build. You're going to notice your uptime is going to be higher with pressure point. I personally never found a use for pressure point, because even in 71s and the 88 that I did, everything either got to like half health when I was pushing in those 80 keys, and then I just had to run around and wait. Like, unfortunately, that's what pushing in this game is. We have exploit windows, we do all of our damage there, and then we just run around like headless chickens trying to survive. And we wait for the next exploit window to pop, and you just rinse and repeat. So the planners are going to be available to you. If you have any questions, let me know. I think I covered everything. Expertise, character, the stats are going to be the same as everything that we talked about. Win over abilities, Paragon, I'll give you guys the planner. No, it was a long video, like I said, but these things matter. And the mace, of course, you can swap for the Magnum Opus here. And yeah, so all of that's good. And of course, I didn't even mention this, but the 5% chance to restore primary resource and lucky hit, when it happens, you notice it's like a huge boost in your damage, because you'll get the Edgemaster's effect, but I don't know, not a huge deal. So one thing you don't have to use Lunging Strike, but whatever basic skill you choose, whether it's, if you want to take Flay, you can take Flay. Why would you take Flay? To have a 20% chance to apply vulnerable for 2 seconds. 2 seconds doesn't seem like a lot, but it can help on boss fights for sure. So what do I mean by 20% when it says 10 here? double the chance with two-handed weapon. This is what I'm talking about. You have to use a two-handed weapon, preferably your, I mean, whatever hits the hardest, I guess, is totally up to you. You have to use a two-handed here, and then your one-handers and your whirlwind. If you use the same weapon, you will not get the mortal whatever glyph. What is it called? Mortal draw will not work, because as we can see, skills that swap to new weapons. A new weapon is not going from a one-hander to a one-hander. It's going from a two-hander to a one-hander. Yes, that's correct. Anyways, this video has been long enough. You guys want some gameplay? I'll give you some gameplay. Hopefully the tags are working. I know people have been saying it would be nice if you had some tags. It's a YouTube issue. It's not a me or my editor issue. We are putting them in, but YouTube's not putting them in. So I'm going to include, like, I don't know, 3 minutes, 4 minutes of gameplay, just so you can watch the build and see how it does, see how it performs. I have footage of carrying a friend that was AFK in tier 60, blew through it. I had some deaths, and I'm gonna probably, actually, if I'm gonna edit the, yeah, I don't know, maybe the deaths won't be in there, but if you want raw footage, maybe I'll just upload those videos separately. If you want to see actual runs of this build, maybe that'll help you guys, maybe it won't, I'm not sure. But there's some other tech that I really want to try out that I kind of briefly mentioned at the start of this video, and once I get that build rolling, if it works out how I think it's going to work out, we might have an actual pushing build for Whirlwind, which is exciting. So that's going to conclude this video. If you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, subscribe. You already know what to do. And I will see you all in my next upload.